Reprise de débat, resuming debate. The member for South Shore St. Margarets.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Tonight is my maiden speech, and thank you, on a topic that is the heart of many Canadian lives, housing. Some of us have mentioned this quite a bit tonight. As we consider the main estimates for the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, I want to reflect not only on the numbers before us, but on the human realities that they represent. Families striving for stability, young people trying to enter the housing market, and communities working to grow with both dignity and inclusivity. It is more than a fiscal conversation. It is a conversation about how we build more affordable, accessible, and equitable Canada for everyone. These were the issues and the concerns that I heard as I knocked on the doors and talked on the phones to the people of South Shore St. Margarets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, tonight for this opportunity to revisit the Department of Housing, Infrastructure, and Communities main estimates for 2025 to 2026, and I'd like to highlight today how these estimates, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's programs in particular, will help Canadians get ahead. In terms of public infrastructure, it's always been and will continue to be a key driver of Canada's success as a nation. It plays a vital role in building a resilient community and supporting economic competitiveness, both at home as well as abroad. Communities are the foundation of a country and are built upon the vast and complex network of transit systems, roads, water, wastewater infrastructure, active transportation systems, cultural facilities, and more. This network reaches into every community and touches every Canadian. It allows our businesses to thrive locally and globally. It makes life affordable for Canadians, and it helps protect our environment. The HICC and its proposal of investments wants to support affordable housing, a modern, climate-resilient infrastructure that is also resilient to extreme weather events. It wants better transit and federally owned bridges under this portfolio, effective and reliable water and wastewater facilities, and important community spaces, all the infrastructure that we are longing for. In addition to this department, it works with these communities to deliver programs designed to prevent and reduce homelessness, something that we've talked quite a bit about during QP. The CMHC plays an integral role with this portfolio as the lead organization delivering housing programs. To accomplish this important and large mandate, the HICC collaborates with Indigenous partners, all orders of government, and other important stakeholders. In the 2025 to 2026 estimates, as most of you have been privy to, the HICC is seeking just over $16 billion in total portfolio authorities for investments in housing and homelessness, public transit, major infrastructure projects, and green, rural, and northern infrastructure across the country. As we all know, sometimes laying the pipe is not sexy, but it's the pipe and the infrastructure that we need to get into the ground in order to build the things on top of it. Some of the things that they also wish to deliver, thank you, the new HICC programming announced in budget of 2024, including Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund. Continued funding for programs like Reaching Home, Canada's Homeless Strategy, the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Program, and the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. Managing these federally owned bridges as well under this portfolio, including the rehabilitation of the Quebec Bridge, a historically important bridge that requires a major structural maintenance program, as well as the reconfiguration work on the Bonaventure Expressway and steel reinforcement work on the Jacques Cartier Bridge, as well as funding for these CMHC programs. In these main estimates, the CMHC is seeking to access $6.4 billion to support delivery of important programs. This would include an increase of 740 million primarily related to three key programs. These programs are 101.5 million under this Housing Accelerator Fund, 309.1 million under the Affordable Housing Fund, and $248.1 million under the Urban, Rural, and Northern Indigenous Housing Strategy. So in terms of the Governor General special warrants, as the House is aware, the typical process calls for the standard interim supply of 3/12 of the first quarter of the year. This ensures departments have sufficient spending authority to cover the period of these main estimates to receive the royal estimate. And given the dissolution of Parliament back in March, the 23rd, the Governor General special warrants of just over $2.75 billion have been issued to this portfolio to cover this period between April 1st and the end of this week and June 29th of 2025 to ensure that Canadians will continue to have access to these programs that support their communities. CMHC has accessed $1.58 billion of this funding to help maintain important housing programs at a time when Canadians are facing a housing crisis. And some of the positive outcomes, I've mentioned a few, but some of these other positive outcomes are the Government of Canada remains committed to delivering an unprecedented level of programming to support housing and infrastructure needs across this country. We are continuing to implement programming to improve housing supply and affordability. Overall, more than 320,000 units have been repaired or committed under this National Housing Strategy, exceeding the targets of 300,000. Of these, 33.2% of funding went towards meeting the needs of women and their children, exceeding that original target again, which was 25%, and helping to ensure that equity-deserving groups and vulnerable populations are being housed, having a place to call home. Programs like this Housing Accelerator Fund are creating better homes and outcomes for Canadians by incentivizing municipalities to cut the red tape, increasing housing densification. As of March 31st of 2025, $4.3 billion has been committed under these Housing Accelerator funds to fast-track over 119,000 permits for new homes. And the Government of Canada has already signed more than 200 agreements under the fund with these municipalities to commit to breaking these barriers to housing and streamlining this regulatory process. Once again, getting those pipes and lines into the ground. These are actions that are expected to support the construction of over 750,000 new homes over the next decade. The CMHC has also committed to $23 billion in loans through the Apartment Construction Loan Program to support the creation of almost 60,000 units to build rental apartments projects across Canada. So this is all different types of housing we're talking about here tonight. This is in addition to other incentives like the Housing Design Catalog, which makes 50 standardized designs already readily available for home buyers that will actually speed up the construction. In 2021, 47% of the renter households in Canada reported experiencing one or more of the following challenges, because we know that there are some challenges. Housing costs over 30% of their income, housing that was not suitable for the size of their household, or housing that needs repairs. Once again, the infrastructure repair renewal. Helping Canadians access affordable and non-market housing is a key priority for our government. Social housing programs deliver meaningful results to Canadians. As of March 31st of 2025, there have been 1,328 approved applications under this Affordable Housing Fund, with a total commitment of almost $11 billion, so $12 billion, $11.99 billion. To put this into a more meaningful context, to date, 46,000 new units have been committed through the Affordable Housing Fund, nearly 30,000 of which are under 90% or 80%, of the median market rent, with rents expected to average $716 per month. Another almost 175,000 units have been repaired or renewed through that fund, with 135 falling under 80% of that median market value, averaging about $827 a month. The AHF, woo, get my letters straight. The AHF is making a difference. Yes, they are making a difference alongside programs like the Federal Community Housing Initiative, which is helping to preserve 48,000 community housing units, and the $1.5 billion cooperative housing development, with help to support a new generation of non-profit cooperative housing. I know that in my riding of South Shore St. Margarets, and as the board chair, former board chair of the Rural Communities Foundation, it was these types of non-profit and cooperative housing that are making a meaningful impact into our riding. The Government of Canada is deeply committed to walking that path also of reconciliation alongside our Indigenous partners and communities. We recognize the Indigenous households are almost twice as likely to experience poor housing conditions compared to that general population. The funding included in this main estimates will support Indigenous housing needs both in urban, rural, and in northern areas. And notably, that an urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing strategy will make a meaningful contribution to the realization of Indigenous self-determining for housing. We need to keep building a renewed and meaningful relationship with Indigenous peoples based on collaboration and partnership. We're hearing a lot of this in the House with collaboration and partnership, and I hope that my colleagues from across the aisle will take note on this. The Government of Canada is focused on addressing the housing crisis. Investments made through the CMHC are critical to the success of our housing programs. And the HICC is continuing to support and complement the CMHC's work through further housing investments, through programs, through supportive infrastructure and public transit throughout Canada's Housing Infrastructure Fund and the Canada Public Transit Initiative Fund, respectively. So in closing, Mr. Speaker, thank you. The challenges that we are facing as a country begin at home, and so must our response. That's why the Government of Canada remains firmly committed to building the housing and infrastructure that form the backbone of our strong, inclusive, and affordable communities. The main estimates before you today will support the HICC and its portfolio to deliver on these commitments to Canadians and addressing affordable housing. We are taking bold, new action, such as the launch of the Build Canada Homes, to accelerate housing construction and to also unlock that supply. And at the same time, we're building on proven programs and these partnerships that are already delivering results. I talked about a couple of them already where they're surpassing goals. And through it all, we're focused on making housing more affordable, helping Canadians get ahead, and building the strongest economy in the G7. And I hope colleagues from all walks of life across the table, we work together to get some of these programs established to help all Canadians, because that at the end of the day are who we are for, our constituents, and helping all. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.